everybody, my name is Allie, also known as the Freckled Yogi, and today's practice is a continuation of last week's practice. So, last week we did a really nice wrist and arm preparation for our arm balances, which we will do today. And all that you need for that is really your mat, and I just ask that you please do that warm-up beforehand. It is so important to warm up, especially when you're doing something like arm balances, because your wrists aren't really designed to hold all of your body weight. Like, if you notice, right now I'm standing up on my 2 feet, which were designed to hold my body weight. So when I'm doing a standing pose, you don't need quite as much warm up in proportion to what you should do when you are doing an arm balance. That's not to say that you should ignore a warm up when you are doing standing balances, but that's just to say that you need to take extra precaution and care of those wrists so that they are equipped for success when you do your arm balances. So, all you need is that mat. If you have some blocks, they can be very helpful, but they're not necessary if you don't have them. So, we're gonna get right into it. This one's gonna be a little bit more tutorial style versus a flow style. And again, please warm up. All right, so once you're warm, we're gonna begin with a crow pose. Now, a lot of times with a crow pose, when you're starting out, the temptation is to have your knees on the outside of the elbows or the biceps, and I did the same thing. It is a lot easier when you're starting to do it in that way, but it makes it a little bit harder down the line to switch over when you want to do something more like a crane pose, or if you want to work on tucking the knees up higher. It's a little bit more challenging when those arms are on the outsides of your or rather when your knees are on the outsides of your arms. So, with that being said, I'm going to show you the way that I think is the best way to progress up into deeper variations of your crow pose. So, we are going to start with those feet hips width distance, and our hands are going to be about a foot or so in front of our feet. We're going to have our fingers spread really nice and wide, because our hands are going to be our base, right? So we want those arms to be strong. And the wider the hands are, the wider and more supportive of a base you're going to have. So, got those hands beneath shoulders, feet beneath hips. And then to begin, we're going to make a nice little bend in those elbows. So the triceps here are going to act like a shelf. And we're just going to start with a little bit of a shift of the weight into the hands, back into the feet. Doing that a couple of times. And then as that starts to feel comfortable, what you're going to begin to do is shift your weight into those hands, deep in that shelf, and bring the knees to touch the backs of those triceps. And now when you're starting, that might be a little intense. It's all right. Just kind of go on and back off. And when you're getting started, you just want to get yourself used to that weight shift. Now, if this is starting to feel comfortable, you can bring the weight so much so into the hands that you can begin to just kind of like float those toes off the ground. As I'm floating those toes, I'm thinking about hugging my elbows in, pulling my belly into my back body. I'm keeping my gaze right down beneath my nose, which lies like right up here towards the top of my mat. Just shifting the weight, letting those feet start to pop up, and keeping a nice strong bend in the arms so that my knees are able to utilize the backs of the triceps like the shelf. So that is our crow pose. As that starts to feel good, you might pull those feet up towards the bum, keep hugging the elbows in, pressing those palms down into the ground. And that's where you can work with our first arm balance. From here, let's go ahead into our baby crow pose. So very similar, same idea of the knees on the triceps, but the difference here is that rather than being on our hands, we're going to be on our forearms. So we're going to start with those hands beneath the shoulders, then bring the forearms down to the mat. And we want to have the forearms at that same distance, right at shoulder width distance. And to start, I'm going to just walk those feet back, because a lot of times that can be a lot of hip compression. So we've got those forearms on the ground, pressing into those palms. I personally like it when I have my hands a little closer in together. You're welcome to keep them right in line with the elbow. Then we've got those toes tucked. We're going to press down into the hands and lift the knees up off the ground. From here, start to walk your feet in towards the arms. Let those hips sink back. And what we're going for is the knee to tricep connection. So once you get that knee to tricep connection, same idea, a nice shelf, let the nose come down to the ground, and begin to lift those feet up off the mat. Now, as you're doing this, you might find that you feel like you're going to just completely squish your nose on the ground. So a pillow can be a very nice prop to have for that. Just a nice thin one so that it doesn't puff up too much. We want to have enough space for our baby crow. So I'm going to just slide my hands under the pillow, forearms back to the mat, lifting those knees off, walking the knees as close in as they'll go. This is why it was really important for us to warm up those hips too in that last flow that we did. Knees to the backs of those triceps, and then shift the weight forward. And as you can tell, your face will go all the way into that pillow if you have it there, but that's a great way to get yourself over that fear of, I'm going to squish my face, and you realize you're not really going to squish your face. And if you do, you have a nice soft little pillow there to catch you. All right, so those are our first two, and our final arm balance for this class is going to be a flying pigeon. Now, flying pigeon is another one where it's essential to have the hips warmed up as well, because we're going to be working with a nice external rotation. And again, we did that nice warm up in the last class. So we're going to begin this arm balance standing. We've got our feet beneath our hips, standing up real nice and tall. We're going to sink our hips down and back into a chair. Shift the weight into the left foot and begin to lift up the right thigh. Go ahead and flex that right foot. We're going to cross the right ankle over the left knee. Keep flexing the right foot. So we're pulling our left toes towards you're pulling your right toes towards your right knee. And then we're really just pressing that right knee down. We're going to start sinking our hips even further back. All right, now from here, hands come to heart center. Elbows are spread wide. We're going to fold the torso over the legs. Now we're going to bring our right foot still flexed. We're going to bring the top of the right foot onto the outside of kind of that spot where the tricep and the bicep meet, so like around the side there. And then you're going to rest the right knee on the right elbow. And you're going to start by just shifting the weight into those hands, really pulling those right toes into the left arm. And as that starts to feel good, you're going to hop that left foot back just a little bit so that we're not pressing the knee into the shin quite as much. And so for this one, it is a little more challenging for me, so I'm going to demonstrate it without speaking for just a moment here. Requires a lot of focus, but I will demonstrate and then break it down once more for you. All right, so pretty much what's going on there is you're trying to pull that right foot, the toes, into the outside of the left arm. So you're creating a bit of tension. So this left arm is pressing into the top of that right foot, and then the right foot at the same time is pulling in. So you're getting this exact same motion, but instead of the right hand here, it's the foot. And then the knee of the right leg is resting in that same spot as we had it resting in our baby crow and our crow pose, right here on that nice meaty part of the tricep. And it's all about keeping that tension there because if you don't have the tension, the foot just kind of slips out or slips off. And a lot of times, I know when I was starting, it's really hard to remove the second leg. So the second leg, a lot of times, you'll notice when I did it the first time, that second leg wants to continue to press into the calf to just kind of keep you in that nice tight little ball. So I'll show you what I mean there. So see how this left knee is fully supporting the right leg? It's hard to make the jump to remove that left leg, so to bring it back, which is why it's that much harder for me to talk as we're going into it. So once you get that knee off of the right leg, then you can shift the weight a little bit more into the hands using that tension of the right leg, and then get that left foot up and off the ground. Whew. That one is a fun challenge, but I encourage you to give it a go, and please don't give up. That flying pigeon is still on and off for me many days. Today happened to be a pretty good day, but it took me years and years and years and years and years of practice to get there, and that left leg really did not want to come back for a long time. So please don't be discouraged. Please keep trying and just show up for yourself. Let me know what you think, and next week we will be back to a flow style practice, which will be for the hips. And that's all I've got for you. Thank you again for joining me. Namaste.